Rahman Rahim. We welcome all the honorable guests on behalf of Mr. Tariq Parvez, the team leader of this project, Advocacy for Police Reforms. Mr. Tariq Parvez is former DGFIA and head of NECTA. He is also President, Advisory Board, National Initiative on Organized Crime in Pakistan. आज की ये राउंड टेबल कॉन्फ्रेंस, इसके there are 4 TORs of this conference. We have already sent material to you, and I'm sure the honorable participants have gone through the material. We have 4 TORs. Number 1, G. Can you hear me, G, everybody?
Yes.
Number 1, accountability of police, internal, external mechanism. Number 2, improving quality of investigation. Number 3, role of police in pandemic, COVID-19. And number 4, mainstreaming gender. Advocacy for police reforms, basically a part of a flagship program of USIP, United States Institute of Peace. And the flagship program you must have seen on TV, that was Police Awam Saath Saath. The purpose of this project, Advocacy for Police Reform, is to sensitize the opinion makers and to have a dialogue with the stakeholders like parliamentarians, media, civil society, and other stakeholders.
You've lost the audio again, sir. Yes, Joseph, we have lost your audio.
Sir. इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी की वजह से सर उनका कनेक्शन लॉस्ट हो गया, वो भी ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं एक मिनट में सर, देन वी विल कंटिन्यू सर.
G, I was disconnected and my screen went off. I don't know whether you heard me last or not.
Yes, of course. 4 main themes you have set.
So there are 4 terms of reference. G. इसमें number 1 है accountability of police, investigation, improving quality of investigation. Number 3, role of police in pandemic. And number 4, mainstreaming gender. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, police reforms is an unfinished agenda of good governance and rule of law in Pakistan. 1947 से लेके 2002 तक at least 25 commissions and committees were established who made their recommendations, but none of the recommendations were implemented. वो implement क्यों नहीं हुई, उसके लिए मेरा ख्याल एक नया कमीशन बनाना पड़ेगा जो ये देखे कि 25 रिपोर्टों पे अमल दरामद क्यों नहीं हुआ. In 2002, police order 2002 was implemented, और police order का focus ये था कि एक accountable और एक neutral police जो है वो बनाई जाए. Unfortunately, police order was not implemented uniformly across Pakistan. KPK now has its own police act, which does carry the soul and spirit of Police Order 2. Unfortunately, Sindh and Balochistan, instead of making any progress, they went back to 1861 Act और उन्होंने बिल्कुल कॉपी कट पेस्ट करके उसी एक्ट को दोबारा वहां पे लगा दिया। पंजाब में पुलिस एक्ट so far is in vogue, but it is not fully implemented. पुलिस ऑर्डर के अंदर जो बेसिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस क्रिएट किए गए थे, लाइक पब्लिक सेफ्टी कमीशन एंड पुलिस कंप्लेंट अथॉरिटी, वो आज तक नहीं बन सके। 20 साल ऑलमोस्ट इस बात को हो गए हैं। सो इन ईयर 2018, the former Chief Justice of Pakistan, Mr. Saqib Nisar, while hearing a case against the judgment of Sindh High Court, उन्होंने एक कमेटी कॉन्स्टिट्यूट की पुलिस ऑफिसर्स की। देयर वर 8 सर्विंग पुलिस ऑफिसर्स एंड 8 रिटायर्ड पुलिस ऑफिसर्स, एंड द मैंडेट ऑफ द कमेटी वाज कि वो नए सिरे से कुछ रिकमेंडेशंस सजेस्ट करें। The committee worked very hard and submitted a report which is almost 304 pages report. It was submitted in January 2019, लेकिन उस पे भी आज तक अमल दरामद नहीं हुआ। Police committee report focused on 6 areas. Number 1, accountability of police. Number 2, investigation. Number 3, revamping of urban policing. Then Nafis, something is not good. मैं दोबारा ऑफलाइन हो गया था।
इंटरनेट की अनस्टेबिलिटी की वजह से सर ये हो गया। सर आप प्लीज गो अहेड करिए सर।
अच्छा जी, तो पुलिस रिफॉर्म्स कमेटी ने 6 एरियाज पे फोकस किया, जैसे मैंने गुजारिश की। तो एडवोकेसी फॉर पुलिस रिफॉर्म्स के लिए द फोकस, द फ्रेमवर्क वाज मेड ऑन बेस्ड ऑन दिस कमेटी रिपोर्ट, फर्स्ट 2 चैप्टर्स, और उसके साथ फिर पेंडेमिक और मेन स्ट्रीमिंग इस पे बात की गई। ख़वातीन और हज़रात, इससे पहले कि मैं अपने ऑनरेबल पैनलिस्ट जो हैं उनको इनवाइट करूं, 2 वेरी हम्बल सबमिशंस। नंबर 1, वी हैव टाइम कंस्ट्रेंट, वी हैव ओनली 90 मिनट्स एट आवर डिस्पोजल, और हम रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे कि एवरी पैनलिस्ट विल कंप्लीट हिज आर्गुमेंट and his discourse and her discourse in almost 10 or 12 minutes. इससे beyond फिर ज़रा मुश्किल होगा, number 1. Number 2, the focus should be mainly within these terms of references. So with this short introduction, I will first invite Sayyid Akhtar Ali Shah, rather Dr. Sayyid Akhtar Ali Shah. The profile of Sayyid Akhtar Ali Shah is so rich that I will take at least 10 minutes, to introduce him. But since all of you know him, and he's not only a police officer, a civil servant, he is a lawyer and now an academic, and he writes. He's a prolific writer, and he is widely published. So, Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab, we'll start with you. कि आप हमें कुछ गाइड कीजिए, अपना विजन दीजिए, at least on these 4 issues.
Thank you very much, sir, for providing me this excellent opportunity to dilate upon the most important issues. And I will try to explain from the citizen's perspective. First, I will start with investigation. Policing essentially is based on three components: prevention, detection, and maintenance of public order. Detection or investigation supplements prevention, and it is generally said that better detection leads to better prevention. It is why highest priority is given to investigation. In this context, the mainstay of laws governing investigation are Criminal Procedure Code, Police Order 2002, or the amended law in our province, that is Police Act 2017, and Kanun-e-Shahadat. To this, I will also add Anti-Terrorism Act 1997. In this perspective, I would also say that when we go through the police rules, most of the sections mentioned or there are from the Criminal Procedure Code. For instance, section 156 up to 177 of CRPC deal with investigation. And investigation basically is a collection of evidence. And one of the main intent and purposes of investigation is to arrive at the truth. And it is one of the main tasks of the IOs that he should be able to determine whether any person who is charged in the FIR, is there any credible evidence against him? Should he arrest him immediately or postpone his arrest? Unfortunately, what I have observed, once you are charged in an FIR, the investigators blindly follow that FIR. They take it as a gospel truth. Summer Bibi is sitting there. She is also a victim now. She is on a bail before arrest, perhaps. I think she should not have been asked to get a bail before arrest. What the IO should have done, in the first case diary, should have deferred the arrest till cogent evidence was available with him. Similarly, in other cases, generally they do this. So we have to train our investigators in such a way that where they can exercise their authority honestly and to the best of his ability. You see, and the Criminal Procedure Code, the IO is supposed to know what his authority is, from where he derives authority. Unfortunately, our training mechanism is not such where the police officials are properly trained about their legal authority, from where they derive their legal authority. And at the same time, they are also skilled how to, preserve the scene of occurrence. I have been to the police training college when I was senior consultant with the VNODC in order to deliver lectures. And the trainer was sitting, there were around 20 or 25 trainers. When I checked their profile, hardly one or two were, one was law graduate, the other was graduate, and the rest were matriculate or inter-pass. So this is our quality of training at Police Training College, Shangu. You see, when the main, recruitment, our recruitment is at the level of constable or ASI. And this is the bulk of the police personnel. Rest of, we are, as for PSP officers, they are journalists, they are supervisors. But as far as the bulk of the police forces, they come from the constabulary and upper subordinates. When they are recruited, they are sent to either to police recruit centers or police training college, where they go through 1 year training, and they are taught by the quality of, you see, the trainers which I have mentioned. There you see in-service training are linked with their promotions, like the inter-course, that the upper courses, all, they are again sent to a police training college, and the same instructors imparts training to them. So what I have observed, that there is serious flaws in our training and the quality of trainers. So we have to go through, we have to conduct case studies of these training colleges, and we have to upgrade the level of the training in training colleges. And I will propose that there should be specialist cadre as far as the training are concerned. There should not be on the dog basis. For 3 months, Tariq Javed is posted, then after 3 months, Ahmed Shah is posted at Commandant Police Training College. We have to have a separate specialist cadre, which we may also, I went to China, they would be known as a technical cadre. And the hierarchy would be from instructor up to the director general level. So then the trainer would have some incentives as far as that cadre is concerned. And the other area where we lack is that we have done little investment as far as training is concerned, investigation is concerned. For instance, I would say, if I take the forensic science of laboratory in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, I, as a Home Secretary, prepared the feasibility report for a state-of-the-art laboratory, and UNDP funded the consultancy, but still the laboratory is nowhere. Similarly, we don't have the culture of, you see, the IOs don't have the culture to carry with them the investigation bags. This culture has to be developed. At times we purchase investigation bags, but the IO would not take the investigation bags to the scene of crime. And in investigation, the scene of crime is the most important. And the IO must know how to preserve the scene of crime. It should not be crowded. At the same time, till the expert arrives, he should be able to lift the important incriminating evidence. And at the same time, he should be doing it, sampling, parceling, initialing. When we go through different, you see, judgments where acquittal occurs, at times there would be delay always. At times the IOs would not initial. So in order to have better investigation, it is essential, once the FIR is lodged, which sets the criminal procedure machinery into motion, the IO on the very first day should be able to write his case diary, and simultaneously he should be able to write everything in the respective register which are maintained in the police stations, and the supervisory officer, either whether he is a ASP or a DSP, should immediately visit the spot to verify the investigation in all major offenses. But it's now rarely being done. That's why the quality of its investigation is going down. Similarly, there are always delays more often while sending the samples to the forensic science laboratory. So good liar always finds then holes in such cases, and always it benefits the offender. So these are some of the fundamentals which are not being followed by our. At the same time, the new things have come up, like the cybercrime. Now, cybercrime, if you look at that, the investigation of that crime is now only left to the FIA. It is high time that all the police stations should also be empowered to conduct cybercrime offenses, because a person sitting in Swat, it would be very difficult for him to come and report in Peshawar to Deputy Director Cybercrime. Now, and all the terrorism cases, if you look at that, in that most of the time, mobile, internet, these modern gadgets are being used. Our IOs are not used to investigate cases where high gadgets have been used. So our IOs have to be trained on these high gadgets also. So I would suggest that our training institute must have forensic science laboratories, so they can inculcate those traits which are required for an investigator. At the same time, I would say that we have to select a person who has the aptitude for conducting investigation. And he must have the thorough knowledge of the relevant laws in order to have clear understanding of the legal authorities legal. And he should be confident, he should have integrity, he should be able to secure the scene of crime and evidence. However, now experts of forensic science arrive. I have already mentioned ability to make parcels, and the first and foremost, you see, IO is required to submit the challan within 14 days. So he should be ready to submit the challan within 14 days. And if he is not able, then he should be writing to the concerned judicial magistrate or to the terrorist court that these are what are the reasons for which he can always seek further permission from the court for further investigation. At the same time, I will say that the focus of our Police Order 2002 was on functional specialization. But unfortunately, we could not develop the police on those lines. We could not make detailed rules how we will make it possible to make it a functional specialized police. For this, we have to establish cybercrime unit. We have to establish financial crime units, and at the same time specialists in homicide crime, in kidnapping for ransom, and such. Then we can say that we have developed police on the basis of functional specialization. The other area, if we say if beggars were, you see, chooser, they would have been if they would have been able to have horses. But at the same time, you see, we are short of funds as our investigation is concerned. A lot of exercises have been done, the cost of per investigation, but as far budgeting is concerned, it is not up to in proportion to the cases which are being carried out. Similarly, the budget set aside for forensic science laboratory, I will take the example of Peshawar, it's very bigger in lakhs. So they don't have enough funds for chemical analysis. So the forensic science laboratory, as far as their financial resources are concerned, they have to be fulfilled. So these are some of the main areas where we need to work, and we have to fill those gaps which I have mentioned. At the same time, an IO is also required to have a liaison and consultation with the prosecution before submission of the challan. So if there is any lacuna in the investigation, it can be corrected. Now coming to the accountability process, I would say that there are always two types of accountability. One is informal in the shape of, you see, societal pressures, community pressures. Then there is press, social media, TV. These are all, you see, informal, but most forceful mediums of accountability. If you take the case of, you see, Takale. It was just because of the social media where there was a check, and then the formal accountability process was set into motion. Then while coming to the formal side is, there are always, you see, Police Act 2017, mostly borrowed from Police Order 2002, where we have, you see, public safety and complaint authorities at the provincial level, at the district level, at the regional level. So there is a need to make those bodies functional, but unfortunately, most of the time, these bodies are not functional. Then we have, you see, the police is like any other institution, always accountable before the elected representative, the provincial assembly. They have their own accountability mechanism. Then we have the, you see, efficiency and discipline rules. Through the efficiency and discipline rule, all police officers are made accountable. You see, now it depends. And simultaneously, one of the most and foremost, you see, requirement, which is also mentioned in police rules, that is inspections, village touring, meeting the community. Through inspections, you keep a check on your subordinates. Had those inspections been carried out regularly, informal and formal, I think incidents like Takale would not have happened. Or Salahuddin in Saiwal. So formal and informal inspections of the police stations, of the police lines, and as far police rules is concerned, a lot depends on the superintendent of police, the model he sets before the people. He should be knowing his people. He should be knowing what is happening around him. He should be accessible, not only to the people, but also his own personnel. So through those mechanisms...
Sir, conclude kijiye, please.
Right, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I will leave two other topics to my other colleagues and my friends here. Thank you very much.
I think 12 minutes are a very, very short time to, listen and hear from a very, very learned person like Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab, but due to time constraint, we'll now move over to Madam Samar Haroon Bilor. She is a member of the Provincial Assembly from Awami National Party. She joined active politics after the shahadat and assassination of her husband, Mr. Haroon Bilor, in 2018 general elections. At that time, he was Information Secretary of ANP. Madam Bilor won the seat in the by-election, and she is the first woman to win a general election in Peshawar. She is the provincial spokesperson and Secretary Information for ANP, and she is trying to raise awareness of issues related to interior Peshawar. Madam Bilor, please enlighten us with your views on the issues already placed before the House.
Assalamu alaikum. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank Tariq Javed Saab for thinking me capable to address such an esteemed forum. A lot of my colleagues in this meeting are belonging to the police service. So in front of such a lot of first-hand knowledge, I would not deem myself to be an expert, but I would like to say that I bring the layperson's feedback and opinion, as I am a popular politician and my work involves roaming around with the Awam. So after going through the material that was sent very kindly by Anam, along with lots of reminders, so thank you, Anam. my personal recommendations, which are mostly about how to create a better and a simpler police system so that the people for whom this system is created can be facilitated. The first one, and which is my personal drive here that I should somehow bring this to light, is the creation of a women's desk in every police station, in every union council. Because given the situation of funds that is at the disposal of the government of Pakistan and the police department, creating separate women's police stations in equality to male police stations seems like a very distant task. However, if we create a separate women's desk along with a separate waiting area and separate toilet facilities, we will enable the women locally to come with a lot more ease and comfort and bring forward their day-to-day complaints. There are a lot of legislation in the offing which are about domestic violence, which are about mental, not just physical violence, but also mental violence against women, harassment of the workplace, which is more to do with the ombudsman. But I think it's being ambit is being largened to include being able to report to the police. And even Mr. Akhtar Ali Shah said, cybercrime reports, a lot of our women do not have access to transport to be able to go to the FIA. But if they were to have a lady constable and female police where they could go and discuss their issues in privacy, then those police women and those constables could forward their complaints and cybercrime harassment, which is horrifically on the rise nowadays amongst the youth. And there's a lot of blackmail and a lot of issues. So I think the police reforms should first of all include the creation of a women's desk in every existing police station. अगर आप जो FIRs which are being registered and the complaints which are being registered, the studies that you had sent us had very detailed breakdowns of the male and female ratio of police officers, but there isn't a breakdown of how much of the percentage of the FIRs registered from the male part of the population and how much from the female part of the population. I think if you include that in your studies, the gender parity will be equally low. So you have to understand the cultural sensitivities of our country. We have to understand the boundaries within which females operate. And we have to make the system of complaints of police easier for the women. It's anyway an unequal society in which we live. So these steps have to be taken in order to ensure a little bit of gender equality. Then one of the goals of this roundtable conference is to create gender parity in the police force. For that, like I first said, the creation of this women's desk will automatically bring in female jobs in a large rotation for the people. Secondly, the image of the police must be uplifted so that people, families feel secure and safe, letting their daughters step out and apply for a job in the police forces. And I think our armed forces are a good example of how over a period of time, they've invested a large amount of money and effort into rebuilding their image and rebranding their image. The army's image of itself was always very good. But this rebranding and this repositioning is to improve its image amongst the masses. And I think the police must dedicate some part of its budget, some part of its focus, because in a lot of areas, the police is the target as the villain. And the police is not always the villain. The police has a very thankless job. In Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, so many of the police people have laid down their lives in the battle against terrorism. With my husband, with my father-in-law, there have been police officers who have lost their lives. Their family is, nobody knows where they are. They've not had grand Yom-e-Shodas celebrated for them. So the morale of the police force also needs to be brought up along with the public image, which will encourage more and more females to apply. Secondly, the police women's job must be gender and culture sensitized. A police woman must not be made to perform, look and talk like a policeman. A a female will always remain a female. I face this issue myself since, like you very kindly in your introduction said, I'm the first elected female from Peshawar. So when I'm called and facilitated on stages and on events, so they always like to, mostly very popular terminology, zamung nara khor. So I always like to say, no, don't put a male attribute on me. Call me Bahadur, call me brave, call me something, but let me be a female and let a female have a brave and an all-round personality, you know. So this, I feel that a lot of our police women, you know, they'll be like men in the way they talk and in the way they handle, and this is something our society can't handle, you know. And when you tell people that let your daughters or let your family members or sisters or wives apply for the police forces, they're horrified because they feel that this is going to emasculate them, you know. So I think a little bit of gender and cultural sensitivity is also required. Secondly, their benefits of the joining the police force must also sort of weigh in and be equal to the difficulties of serving in the police, you know. It's not an easy job, they're underpaid, they have difficulties. A lot of people, I talked to a few police officials also, I wanted to take some feedback from them. So their big concern was lack of budget. They said that even for investigating cases, their investigation officers don't get petrol allowances, which makes them lazy and desk bound and, you know, more prone to just the first person who walks in through the door and the person who makes more visits to the police station is the person who they will end up favoring in. Create a fair enabling environment, we must look at the pockets of the police. We must give them at least enough that they can carry out a fair investigation and that they don't have to pay from their own personal pocket. Then I'd like to come to the investigative side of the police force, which is, I think, where majority of the people's complaints lie and where majority of what we can call the notoriety of the force lies. There's been a recent scandal in Tamil Nadu. I don't know if any of you are aware of that, which is Jairaj and Benny case, in which two people were tortured to death in a police thana. And the very gruesome ways of torture were very common, which we keep hearing. This is how our police use excessive force and, you know, inhumane ways to try to extract confessions. So my recommendation is that the investigative act of the police must be video and audio recorded. And these video and audio recordings must be archived until the duration of the case of the guilty person. If the case goes on for 10 years, those audio video archives should remain in proper possession for 10 years. Once a case has reached its logical conclusion, either it's ended or it's been declared guilty or, you know, not guilty, then maybe if they have lack of space, although in a digital era, there is no such thing of lack of space. You can always make space. So not only will there's always good and bad in the world. There's a good police officer and there's a bad police officer, but the good police officer will take also the blame of the bad. So the good police officer who will be a strict investigating officer, but who will be within the ambit of the law, will also be emboldened, because tomorrow no fake thing can be made, no fake claims of torture can be made on them. And the one who is more inclined to use what we call extrajudicial means will also be in check. So this is a very humble suggestion from my side. Secondly, there's a lot of complaint about the FIR in Daraj. Unfortunately, my family history is such that now I personally have a lot of experience. As an elected law member, as an educated person, if an FIR is placed in front of me, I can't read it. I simply struggle to read the way it's written, the way it's laid out. And, you know, for a lay person who goes and who registers their complaint, that FIR is as if it's written in French or, you know, Persian or Arabic or something. They can't figure out for the longest time whether that thing is what they want it to be or not, you know, until the lawyers come in. And then sometimes it's very late, like Akhtar Ali Shah Sahib said, getting an FIR, something removed or added to it is then like climbing another mountain altogether. So the registration of the FIR and the ability to make additions and subtractions to it must be simplified, because the FIR system is there to enable the person who has suffered in society. The person who suffers will go and place their suffering or their complaints in the police station and ask these people who are in a position of power and authority to help them. The FIR has become, in reverse, a way of punishing the person who is suffering, you know. So I think a little bit of it has to be looked at and made simplified. The process should be simplified, the FIR in itself should be simplified, and any additions or subtractions to be with it to be simplified. Again, if we have audio video recordings of what goes on inside a police station, a lot of things will be in black and white, and you know, a lot of conjecture will come to an end. Another thing that I've personally faced after the shahadat of my husband is that when I asked the investigation officers that, you know, where have your investigations led you and what have you learned, you know, as a bereaved family, we also want justice and we want to hear that someone has been found guilty, someone has been caught. So they were very kind enough to come to my home and give me a presentation. They showed me lots of video recordings and audio clips, and then they said, we've done a lot of DNA testing. So I said, what did you test the DNA against? And everybody just had stunned looks on their faces, and they said that we don't have a DNA bank. So I said, then what are you testing DNA for? Unless you have a DNA bank, even if somebody you think is the perpetrator of the crime or a bombing, as in that case was, what good is DNA testing unless we have a bank to test it against and some evidence that we can pull out from that? So I've discussed this with the ex-CCPO of Peshawar a couple of times in a couple of meetings in quite a lot of detail, that the creation of a DNA bank in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is a must, which can help in all kinds of cases, from large terrorism related cases to the smaller kidnapping children from hospitals and so on and so forth. These things can be regularized at birth. These things can be regularized with the immunization programs. Immunization programs are such that we have detailed lists of every child in every house, in every school, in every madrasa who has refused polio drops, who has accepted polio drops. So I think if we tie these things up with one of these programs, it would be quite easy for the police to create a DNA mass or a DNA bank, as we call it, in a shorter period of time. And that would be quite helpful in a lot of investigation opportunities. Another thing which I've taken in interactions from former and serving police officials is the formation of Active Public Safety Commission, which is also part of the 2017 Police Act, which would also be a forum for complaints against police high-handedness. See, an effective check and balance and accountability system is very necessary. If there's going to be no culpability and no accountability for your actions, then nobody's going to be in check. Very few people are born with an innate sense of right and wrong. And people always say what they say about power and absolute power. So what we see with a lot of officials is that somewhere down the line, they tend to become desensitized, and they see human beings more as numbers or, you know, as tasks to get over, as opposed to people with, you know, living, breathing issues. So a little bit of accountability, maybe by retired police officials, some lay people, and a general wide spectrum of society, as you people have gathered today, would go a long way in bringing our police forces to itself. Another thing which the police people have requested me to bring up on this forum is that, barring a large incident or like an unpleasant incident like the Takal incident, no police official should be removed without completion of tenure, because every official comes in, they would like to implement some sort of policy. Every policy takes certain amount of months to put down and implement on the ground. And once you know, a person starts trying to implement their thing, they are transferred, and you know, the police officials say that this creates a lot of uncertainty and a lack of balance in the way the force is run, you know. And if people were allowed to complete their tenure, when they would bring their own vision and they would bring their own sort of mechanisms to their own districts, which they've been laid down for, it would have better results. Another thing that I would like to bring to the foreground is that there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape in the police system. In my constituency, PK78, there's been a large rise in the last year and a half in small petty crimes such as, you know, mobile snatching at night, motorcycle thefts from outside the houses. And police stations, as we know, are few and far between in Peshawar. Again, the police mobiles are also, and police people in Peshawar are also doing a lot of duty terrorism related, you know, or extrajudicial activities related. So they're not always on ground for these issues which police categorize as petty crime, but for the people whom it concerns, it is a rather important and large part of their crime. So we found a rather nice and a well-to-do family who agreed to donate a plot on a very nice main road of Peshawar to create a police chowki. Now, to a lay person like myself, a chowki would mean 2-3 rooms, a courtyard to park bikes, and a washroom. But the estimate for the chowki was so high that it was in mega crores. We still persisted because that land that the party was willing to donate was also a very valuable land. It has been 1.5 years. We have not even been able to get a PC1 made from the department. We are coming, going, short of building ourselves and putting a police board outside it. We are totally at a loss about how to move that thing forward. And, you know, how to make something which could have by now already taken place and which could have started helping out the community in such a way. So, you know, there's a planning department and there's an RED department and there's a CNW department and a PNW department. None of them have even made a map or a proper survey of the place yet. So this is, like I said, from my personal experience that I'm talking. Lastly, I would like to appreciate the Peshawar Police Force's efforts during COVID, because the forces and the officers really went above and beyond the call of duty at a time when there was extreme fright about COVID and its implications, and, you know, how is it going to affect the human. The police officers have been attending my calls as an MPA even at 12 and 1 o'clock at night. They have gone repeated times to janazgas and to mosques to break up crowds. They've gone 4 times in a day to football and cricket grounds to break up teams of children playing and to ensure social distancing. And they've done it with a smile. They've done it with a very deft touch, with a very light touch. And I'm very sorry to say that the person who was in charge of all of this has today been unceremoniously removed from his post in a slew of allegations in the Takal case. But what I found of him in my interactions, he could, and when he would call me, he would sometimes be so upset. He would be, "Madam, but I sent these kids back an hour earlier. What should I do now?" So I would say, you know, show them some anger. I can't scold them, they're just children. So I just thought it was a very nice and a very caring and a very soft attitude that I saw of Peshawar police in those days. And from standing on roads to giving duties in police in schools where the SAS program money donations were being given, where they have read women's ID cards, where they have, you know, dropped them home on their bikes, where they've helped them wash their fingers with glycerine to get their fingerprints. Like I said, they've really gone above and beyond, and where they've done a good job, it is, I feel, our duty to praise them and commend their role also. So once again, I'd like to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to present my simple thoughts in front of this August forum. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Madam Samar Bilor. It was a brilliant discourse. You have covered almost all the areas so profoundly. We are I personally stand educated from your discourse. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Mr. Ismail Khan. Mr. Ismail Khan, I don't think he needs a formal introduction. He's a resident editor, Dawn newspaper in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and associated with the paper since 2001. Before that, he worked with the news as a senior staff member for 11 years. He has also worked with the New York Times and has been part of the New York team that won the prestigious Pulitzer Award for Best Coverage of Pakistan and Afghanistan in 2009. Mr. Ismail Khan, we are very, very keen and excited to listen to you. In fact, the team leader, Mr. Tariq Parvez, was very concerned 2-3 days ago when we were unable to contact you because of your bad health. So Mr. Tariq Parvez was very concerned and we were pushing Tariq Javed to, approach you. So Mr. Ismail Khan, your take.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for having me here. A lot has been, said about police reforms and KP's Police Reforms Act. It's been 20 years since the Police Order 2002 and we're still discussing police reforms. That's an irony for me. And honestly, when I look at this entire debate, over a period of times, and since the Police Order 2002 and then, 2017, I think what police has done is amassed a lot of powers in its hands. And they don't know what to do with it. It's still, they're trying to gain more power without actually understanding, knowing what to do with it. And this is what brings us to this whole question of internal and external accountability. We have talked about Amire Takali's case. It wouldn't have gone to Judicial Commission to probe if the police had its own internal accountability system. And that's the fundamental problem with it. The police, they need to realize that, this is a civil armed force. This is not like the Pakistan army, which has insulated itself. There is no oversight. There is no external accountability. Public Safety Commission is there, provided for in the law, but they haven't, the police hasn't done anything about it. So whenever there is a problem, it comes back to the same question. There is no internal accountability and then there is no external oversight. That's the problem, the biggest problem with the police reforms that we have had here in KP. The other thing is with the quality of investigation. Shaji, said, that we need to have, better training and supervising specialized force for investigation. Who has stopped the police from not doing it? KP has its own financial constraints. Our revenue base is too small, and more than 90% of the money comes from the federal government, and a major chunk of that goes toward the police department. Now, even if you say the ratio of the amount of money that is spent on investigation is too small, I would say no. Shaji was heading the Home Department, and Home Department every year, I don't know whether they are doing it now, but they've been producing a very good report, annual report, and that it would include a segment of the police performance of the police department as well. 70–80% of the cases are of petty nature. The cases of heinous crimes, murder, extortions, kidnapping for ransom, robberies, constitute only 10%, or maybe slightly more than that, or maybe slightly less than that. So if you were to calculate the money spent on investigation, and then the investigation is, the quality of that investigation is so poor that it cannot stand in the court of law, what do you do with that? And the other thing is that even when it comes to investigation, there is no again, internal accountability within the police system. They have a statistic department or section within the Central Police Office. If you go and ask them for statistics, how many challans have you submitted? How many of them, in investigation, how many cases have you lost? No data. And then there has been nobody there to ask why, the case couldn't go through and stand in the court of law. So there is always a problem. I think there are no problems when it comes to giving the police more powers. They have enough and sufficient powers. The only problem is, exercising, enforcing, and implementing those laws or framing those rules. Shaji said, we don't have any rules. Now, this is the police department job to do it. The law is there. It has given them, powers to frame rules, to do things. And if they are not doing it, what is the point, asking for more powers? You have enough and sufficient powers. You have enough and sufficient funds, and you need more funds, yes. But you need to justify the funds or the money that is coming to you now. What do you do with that? So that's my point number 2. I'll quickly go to the role of the police in the pandemic. I think wonderful, not just the police, the civil administration here in KP. I've been driving around, walking around and seeing things. I think they've done a very good job. There have been minor problems here and there when it came to the so-called smart lockdowns. But overall, the police had, I think they've had too much on its plate. Counterterrorism, combating crime, watch and ward, and on top of that, tracking and tracing, international arrivals from abroad. People, all those people have came from abroad and then just disappeared, and then Tablighi Jamaat people and all these things. I think they've done a tremendously good job. Women police, mainstreaming gender. Unfortunately, again, we have only one police station close to this civil police lines. The only police station here in Peshawar. It was led by a DSP Musharraf. I don't know what became of her, so I don't know where she is now. But that's the thing. Again, it is the people at the helm in the police department to do its job properly. If they ask for more women police, they send their requirement to the Public Service Commission. I don't think there is any law that bars them from not giving fair representation to women in the police force. So I'm all for police, but and I tell you, KP, I take a lot of pride. The best police force, I think, in Pakistan, culturally, socially, best police force at the forefront of the fight against terrorism. When even the military was playing second fiddle, they were there at the forefront. No question about it. But the thing is, when I see it, and it's so sad, I used to discuss this thing with Shaji also, police stands demoralized. I miss the police, of the years gone by. I miss the police, the courageous, the bold police. They were doing a wonderful job. But the reforms, I don't know what has gone wrong with them. They do not even know how to control mob. They have the power to control mob, and they don't know what to do with the mob. Every day we have road blockades in front of the provincial assembly. The police is there, it's their job. They don't do it. The deputy commissioner, district administration, they don't do it because they don't have the powers anymore. So the problem is, with a lot of power in their hand, they don't know what to do with those powers. Thank you very much.
Sir, Tasim Saab.
प्लीज सर अनम्यूट कर लीजिएगा सर तहसील. प्लीज सर अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ सर.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Ismail Khan sir, for your very constructive criticism of the state of affairs of KPK police. And I hope it will help us in this study, and we will also, conveying it to the police leadership in KPK. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Mr. Ahmed Kundi, MPA. Mr. Kundi has been elected as MPA from constituency PK 96. From Pakistan People's Party parliamentarians since 2018. Previously, he was divisional president of PPP parliamentarians in Dera Ismail Khan. He hails from a family of well-known political family with roots that can be traced back to the Legislative Assembly of 1932-37, during which great-grandfather Barrister Abdul Rahim Kundi had been the distinction of being the first deputy speaker. So with this rich family background and a very, very strong political base, we request Mr. Kundi to share his views on police reforms with us. Mr. Kundi, please go ahead.
شکریہ تحسین صاحب. ہوپفلی آپ
Mr. Kundi, can you hear me?
جی بالکل میں آپ کو پک کر رہا ہوں. تو
Mr. Kundi, can you hear us?
آواز آ رہی ہے آپ کو؟ میری آواز آ رہی ہے؟
نفیس بتائیے کنڈی صاحب.
آواز آ رہی ہے آپ کو؟
جی بالکل سر آواز آ رہی ہے.
آواز کلیئر ہے؟ آواز کلیئر آ رہی.
ٹھیک ہے تحسین صاحب شکریہ. سب سے پہلے تو میں مشکور ہوں طارق صاحب کا جنہوں نے مجھے اس فورم کے لیے نامینیٹ کیا, اور میں تمام جتنے بھی ہمارے ایکسپرٹس بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں, میری کولیگ سمر بھی بیٹھی ہوئی ہیں, ان سب کا مشکور ہوں. کافی ڈیپ انسائٹ سے مستفید ہو رہے ہیں. بڑا امپورٹنٹ ٹاپک ہے, خاص کر ہمارے پولیٹیکل لوگوں کے لیے بڑا امپورٹنٹ ہے, کیونکہ میں اگر اپنی پالیٹکس کو دیکھوں تو تقریباً اگر میں پبلک کے ساتھ انٹریکشن میں رہتا ہوں تو میرے خیال میں میجورٹی جو ڈے ٹو ڈے کیسز ہیں اس میں زیادہ تر کیسز جو ہیں وہ پولیس سے وابستہ ہوتے ہیں, اور تقریباً ہمارا جو مسئلے مسائل پبلکس کے ہیں تو وہ بھی زیادہ تر. اور میرا اپنا خیال یہ ہے جس کام پہ آپ لوگ کام کر رہے ہیں خاص کر پولیس ریفارمز کے حوالے سے, یہ بہت ہی امپورٹنٹ اس لیے جب تک ہم پولیٹیکل لوگ اپنی گورننس کو بہتر نہیں کریں گے. کیوں گورننس اس لیے بہتر ہمیں کرنی چاہیے جب تک ہم پرفارم نہیں کریں گے, گورننس کو بہتر نہیں کریں گے, تھانے کچہری کی جو سیاست ہے یا یہ جو ٹرمز یوز ہوتی ہے اس کو ایٹ ایز نہیں کریں گے لوگوں کے لیے, میرے خیال میں ہمارے اوپر لوگ اعتماد نہیں کریں گے. پولیس کا اور پولیٹیکل لوگوں کا یہ میری اپنی ایک نظر ہے, شاید اس میں بھی آئی ایم لٹل بٹ رانگ, لیکن میرے خیال میں پولیس کا اور پولیٹیکل بندے کا تقریباً ملتا جلتا ہی رول ہے. پولیس کی اگر آپ رسپانسبلٹیز اینڈ ڈیوٹیز کو دیکھ لیں تو میرے خیال میں اسماعیل صاحب نے جس طرح کہا جو بہت بڑی پاور ہے ان کے پاس, میرے خیال میں ہم نے خود ان کو ذمہ داریاں اور جو ڈیوٹیز دی ہوئی ہیں وہ اس کی بہت بڑی ایک لمبی فہرست ہے. اگر ایز اے لے مین ٹرمز میں یوز کروں تو میرے خیال میں پیدائش سے لے کر وفات تک جتنی بھی ہمارے ایونٹس آتے ہیں, ایکٹیویٹیز آتی ہیں, اس میں پولیس کا مین رول رہتا ہے. چاہے آپ کی پراپرٹی ہے, چاہے آپ کی سیکیورٹی ہے, چاہے خوشی ہے, غمی ہے, جنازہ ہے, شادی ہے, کچھ بھی ہے, آپ کا سارا آپ اس کی ڈیوٹیز کی لسٹ اٹھا لیں تو میرے خیال میں بہت ایک لمبی لسٹ ہے جس کی وجہ سے ان کے پاس اسکوپ بہت بڑھ جاتا ہے. وہ اسکوپ میں اپنی کیپیسٹی سے زیادہ ہوتا ہے. اور ہم پولیٹیکل لوگوں کا بھی یہی مسئلہ ہے, ہم لوگوں نے اپنے آپ اتنا ہمارا اسکوپ اتنا بڑا ہے جس کی وجہ سے ہم اپنی ذمہ داریاں پوری نہیں کر سکتے. لوگ ہم پہ پھر جو ہے تنقید کرتے ہیں بہت زیادہ, جس کی وجہ سے ہم پرفارم بھی نہیں کر سکتے, کیونکہ اسکوپ جب بڑا ہوتا ہے رسپانسبلٹیز کا تو ڈیفینیٹلی آپ کے اوپر لوگوں کا بھی برڈن اتنا زیادہ ہوتا ہے. سو لیٹ می کم ٹو دا مین ٹاپک جو ٹی او آرز تحسین صاحب نے دیے ہیں, جو یار انویسٹیگیشن کے حوالے سے, اکاؤنٹیبلٹی کے حوالے سے, کووڈ میں جو پولیس کا رول ہے, اور جینڈر کے حوالے سے خاص کر جو ہے نا مطلب اس حوالے سے ہم کیا سجیسٹ کر سکتے ہیں. میرا اپنا خیال اکاؤنٹیبلٹی کی جیسے ہی لفظ آتا ہے تو ہمارے ذہن میں شاید کوئی فائنینشیل آتا ہے, لیکن میرے خیال میں غالباً یہ اکاؤنٹیبلٹی جو ہے بیسیکلی پرفارمنس کی اکاؤنٹیبلٹی ہے. بدقسمتی ہے جس طرح آپ بار بار کہہ رہے ہیں, جو پرفارمنس کی اکاؤنٹیبلٹی کے لیے کوئی ایسا فورم ڈیموکریٹک سائٹ موجود نہیں ہے جس کی وجہ سے ہم ان کو اکاؤنٹیبل ٹھہرائیں. میں فرسٹ ٹائمر ہوں پروونشل اسمبلی میں, لوکل گورنمنٹ میں رہا ہوں, لیکن 2 سالوں میں نے کوئی بھی ایسی کوئی اینول رپورٹس نہیں دیکھی جو پولیس کے حوالے سے ہو جس کے اوپر ہم ان کو اکاؤنٹیبل ٹھہرا سکیں, جن کے اوپر ہم ان کی انالیسس کر سکیں. اور میرے خیال میں یہ بڑا ایک امپورٹنٹ اس کا فورم ہونا چاہیے. جس طرح پولیس ایکٹ میں پروونشل پبلک سیفٹی کمیشنز ہیں جن کی کمپوزیشن ابھی تک نہیں ہو سکی. تو میرا اپنا خیال یہ ہے اکاؤنٹیبلٹی جب آپ فورمز بنائیں گے اور پبلک نمائندوں کو جس طریقے سے آپ کہہ رہے ہیں پبلک نمائندوں کو وہ کریں گے تو میرے خیال میں اس سے ذرا چیک اینڈ بیلنس بڑھے گا اور چیک اینڈ بیلنس کی وجہ سے جو ہے ہو سکتا ہے ان کی پرفارمنس بھی بڑھے گی. دوسری بات جو آپ انویسٹیگیشن کی کر رہے ہیں میرا اپنا خیال یہ ہے دیکھیں انویسٹیگیشن کے لیے جس طرح اسماعیل صاحب نے کہا اگر اب ہم ان کی ذمہ داری دیکھیں تو میرے خیال میں بہت لمبی چوڑی لسٹ ہے اور اگر فنڈ دیکھیں تو اس ذمہ داری کے مطابق وہ نہیں ہے. اسی طرح آپ دیکھ لیں موٹر وے پولیس ہے ان کی ذمہ داریاں ہم نے ان کو محدود رکھا ہوا ہے. وہ اچھا پرفارم کرتے ہیں اچھا بہیو کرتے ہیں کیونکہ ان کی جو اسکوپ ہے وہ بڑا کم ہے. ہم نے ان کو ڈیوٹیز بڑی زیادہ دی ہوئی ہیں تو اس ڈیوٹیز کے مطابق میرے خیال میں وسائل بہت ہم کم دیتے ہیں. انویسٹیگیشن کو اگر اسپیسیفکلی ہم لے لیں اسپیسیفکلی تو میرے خیال میں اگر کیس ٹو کیس ہم اگر ڈیٹا لے لیں تو میرے خیال میں ہزاروں میں بھی کیس کے اوپر نہیں بنتا بلکہ 100 500 400 فی کیس پہ بنے گا. تو کہنے کا مقصد انویسٹیگیشن کے لیے ہمیں پبلک اور پولیس کے درمیان گیپ کو منیمائز کرنا پڑے گا. اسی وسائل میں اسی سوری میرا ذرا لیپ ٹاپ کی بیٹری کم ہو رہی ہے میں ذرا موو کروں. تو اسی وسائل میں جو ہمیں جو ہے اسی وسائل میں رہتے ہوئے اگر ہم کہتے ہیں جو بھیا ہمارے پاس پیسے بھی نہیں ہیں تو میرے خیال میں پولیس تھانے کا اور عام پبلک کا جو گیپ ہے اس کو منیمائز کرنے کے لیے میری اپنی سجیشن یہ ہے اگر ہم اسٹیشن جو تھانے کا جو انچارج ہے اس کو باؤنڈ کر لیں جو بھئی یار وہ کم از کم فورٹ نائٹلی یا منتھلی کھلی کچہری لگائے اور پھر یہاں پہ ہم جینڈر کو بھی ایڈریس کر سکتے ہیں. مجھے نہیں یاد میرے پولیٹیکل کیریئر میں نے کسی تھانے میں کسی عورت کو آتے ہوئے دیکھا ہو. کہنے کا مقصد 50% ہماری پاپولیشن ہے. کم از کم ہم اگر اور کچھ بھی نہیں کر سکتے جو ہمارے لوکل گورنمنٹ کے الیکٹڈ ریپرزینٹیٹیو ہیں اگر ہم ہائر فورم پہ بھی نہیں جاتے تو وہ ہمارے ولیج کونسل میں بہت ساری ایسے الیکٹڈ عورتیں ہیں جو نامینیٹڈ ہوتی ہیں ان کا کم از کم ہم ایس ایچ او کو باؤنڈ کریں جو وہ ہر منتھ ان کے ساتھ ایک میٹنگ کرے. اس میٹنگ کا مقصد یہی ہوگا وہ جو گیپ ہوگا وہ منیمائز ہوگا. وہ جب منیمائز ہوگا تو آپ کو انویسٹیگیشن میں پبلک کا ٹرسٹ جب آپ کے پاس ہوگا تو آپ کی انویسٹیگیشن امپروو ہو سکتی ہے. جب آپ کی انویسٹیگیشن امپروو ہوگی تو میرا خیال ہے کرمنل جسٹس سسٹم کے اوپر جو برڈن ہے وہ کم ہوگا. یہ سجیشن میری اس وقت ہے جب آپ کے پاس بالکل محدود وسائل ہوں پیسے کم ہیں فرض کرو ہم اس چیزوں پہ بھی نہیں جاتے جو یار ہمیں پیسہ کہاں سے آئے گا. یہ وہ سجیشن ہے میرے اپنے خیال میں جو یار اگر آپ ایویڈنس کو بہتر کرنا چاہتے ہیں تو اس کے لیے آپ کو پبلک ٹرسٹ کو ایڈریس کرنا پڑے گا جس کا تھوڑا بہت کافی مجھے بلکہ لگ رہا ہے جو کافی زیادہ اس میں گیپ ہے اور وہ ٹرسٹ میرے خیال میں اسی طریقے سے ہی ہو سکتا ہے جو ان کے درمیان گیپ کو کم کریں. دوسری بات جو آپ لوگوں نے کووڈ کی بات کی ہے کووڈ میں بھی پولیس کا جو رول ہے وہ بڑا بہتر رہا ہے کیونکہ آپ دیکھ لیں ہمارے یہاں پہ تو مذہب کے نام پہ بھی جانا بڑا مطلب اٹیچمنٹ رہتی ہے تو مطلب مسجدیں کھولنی ہیں مسجدیں مذہبی طبقے کی ایک اٹیچمنٹ تھی اپنی عبادت گاہوں کے ساتھ تو وہ بھی ایشو تھا جو جمعہ نماز پہ لوگ اکٹھے ہو جانا ہے تو وہ اس کا کام ان کو ہٹانا وہ بھی پولیس کا کام. نے دیکھا بہت ساری لڑائی اس کی وجہ سے پولیس کے لوگ افیکٹ بھی ہوئے ہیں ان کو کافی مطلب بیماری کا سامنا اس میں شہادتیں بھی ہوئی ہیں. اور میرے خیال میں اگر ہم پولیس کے رول کو 40 سال ہمارے صوبے نے میں اپنے خیبر پختونخوا کی بات کروں گا 40 سال ہم نے جنگ لڑی اور پولیس کا جو میرے خیال میں ملیٹنسی کے اگینسٹ جو رول رہا ہے میرے خیال میں انہوں نے اپنا تمام قرض اور تمام اپنی جتنی بھی چیزیں یہ اتار چکے ہیں. مجھے یہ لگتا ہے کہ بڑے معصوم بن چکے ہیں اور بڑا ان پہ ترس آتا ہے میں تو کہتا ہوں کیونکہ اتنی بڑی شہادت ایسے لوگوں کے خلاف آپ نے ان کو لڑایا جس طرح کہتے ہیں نا ممولے کو شاہین سے آپ نے لڑا دیا کہنے کا مقصد ہے. تو پولیس نے بڑا ایک بریو رول پلے کیا ہے اور میرے خیال میں اس سے بڑا ٹاسک کووڈ اتنا بڑا ٹاسک نہیں تھا پولیس کے لیے جس طرح ہماری خیبر پختونخوا کے لیے ملیٹنسی کا جو چیلنج تھا جس طریقے سے اس کو ایڈریس کیا تو میرے خیال میں بہت بڑا امتحان انہوں نے پاس کیا. پھر دوبارہ آ جاتا ہوں اسی چیز پہ جو چیز آپ کر رہے ہیں یہ سب سے زیادہ بینیفیشری اس کے ہم پولیٹیکل لوگ ہوں گے. اگر اچھے ریفارمز ہم لے آتے ہیں اچھی لیجسلیشن ہم لے آتے ہیں پبلک ایٹ ایز ہو جاتی ہے تو ہمارا بھی قد بڑھے گا اس سے پولیٹیکل لوگوں کا. جب لوگوں کو تھوڑی سی آسانیاں ہوں گی کچہری میں تھانے میں اصل چیز یہ ہے ہماری تھوڑی سی میری اپنی نظر ہے, ہم لوگ ڈیولپمنٹ سیکٹر کی طرف اتنے زیادہ ٹلٹ ہو چکے ہیں پولیٹیکل لوگ, جو ہمارا جو پرائمری جاب ہے اس کو ہم میرے خیال میں بھول چکے ہیں. اور یہ چیز ہے. میں خود بھی فرسٹ ٹائمر ہوں, بڑا ہمیں مطلب ہے ہلکے کی جو پرائرٹیز ہے اس میں اور اسمبلی کی پرفارمنس میں بڑا فرق ہے. آپ کو لوگ جو ہے نا وہ بڑے چھوٹے چھوٹے ایشوز میں آپ کی اویلیبلٹی چاہتے ہیں, جس کی وجہ سے ہمیں انہیں ٹائم دینا پڑتا ہے. میری بات کو شاید سمر بھی زیادہ آسانی سے سمجھ سکتی ہیں, کیونکہ ان کو پتہ ہے جو بھئی لوگوں کہ ہمیں پتہ ہوتا ہے 99% لوگوں کے کام نہیں ہونے جو ہمارے پاس آتے ہیں, لیکن اس کے باوجود بھی ہم ان کو ایز اے سہولت کار ٹریٹ کرتے ہیں, اور اس میں میجورٹی کام جو ہے ان کا تعلق پولیس کے ساتھ ہوتا ہے. تو میں بس آخر میں کنکلوڈ کروں گا, بڑا اچھا سٹیپ ہے. میری خود بھی آپ لوگوں نے میری ڈائریکشن جو تھی اس طرف ذرا تھوڑی بڑھ گئی ہے, مزید اس پہ مطالعہ کریں گے, آپ جیسے ایکسپرٹ لوگوں کی جو رائے ہے اس سے مستفید ہوں گے. اور میرے خیال میں میری اپنی یہی اوپینین ہے, اگر اسی وسائل میں ہم نے کام کرنا ہے تو تھانے اور ولیج کونسلوں لیول کی جو یونٹ ہیں ان کے درمیان گیپ کو منیمائز کرنا پڑے گا, جس کی وجہ سے انویسٹیگیشن بھی بہتر ہوگی, جس کی وجہ سے اکاؤنٹیبلٹی کا فیکٹر بھی ہوگا. اور خاص کر پھر وہی جینڈر والی بات میں دوبارہ کروں گا, الیکٹڈ جو ریپریزنٹیٹیو ہیں ولیج کونسل کی, خاص کر فیمیل, ان کو ایڈریس کیا جائے, ان کو تھانے پہ انوائٹ کیا جائے تاکہ وہ گیپ کم ہو. تو میری بس یہی ریکمنڈیشن ہے. باقی میں پھر شکریہ ادا کرتا ہوں اسماعیل صاحب کا, سمر بی بی کا, طارق صاحب کا, اختر صاحب کا, بڑی ڈیپ انسائٹ دی. زائدہ صاحب آپ نے ہمیں سنا, تحسین صاحب آپ کا ماڈریٹر, اور اپنے ارشد جان صاحب, احمد جعفری صاحب کا شکریہ.
تھینک یو احمد کنی صاحب. آپ نے بڑے مختصر وقت میں بڑی ہی کمپریہنسو ماشاءاللہ گفتگو کی, اور سارے ایشوز بڑے گراس روٹ لیول پہ جو ایشوز ہیں ان کو آپ نے ہائی لائٹ کیا. بہت شکریہ. Our next honorable speaker is Mr. Arshad Jan. He is a program specialist, rule of law, UNDP. He has a very, very rich educational background. He is master's degree in political science, master's degree in history, master's degree in law, MPhil in international development studies, specialized course in human rights from School of Public Policy, Central European University, Budapest, Hungary. Arshad Jan, please, ہمیں آپ ان ایشوز پہ ایز این ایکسپرٹ اینڈ اسپیشلسٹ آف رول آف لا ہمیں شیئر کیجیے اپنے ویوز. تھینک یو.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Arshad Jan.
Thank you, sir. Esteemed panelist, and I'm very thankful to the organizers.
نفیس ارشد جان صاحب کو ذرا کال کیجیے.
Can you hear me?
بالکل سر, آپ کی آواز آ رہی ہے. سر ارشد صاحب ہمارے ساتھ ہیں سر, آن لائن ہیں سر. جی پلیز سر,
نفیس کین یو ہیئر می پلیز.
I think
جی بالکل سر, آپ کی آواز آ رہی ہے سر.
Mr. Sir, we can hear you. Please, आप proceed करें. We can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, thank you again for inviting me to be panelist at this sessions. And I think some of the areas that I thought that I will speak on, our esteemed Elder Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab, Samar Bilor Sahaba, and Ismail Sahab, they have already spoken about it. But I would also be being part of and citizen of this country. I think I will also be coming from a citizen perspective. To me, I think the bigger issue is the overall image of the police. So as a citizen, I will come to how I think about police. And for it, I think the main issue is that either there's non-existence or a completely obsolete public complaint response system in the police, which is in fact a serious challenge and results into failure of the overall policing system and the weakening of the entire criminal justice system. And some of our panelists, they have already spoken about it, that yes, there are good police and bad police, but if there is no complaint and a proper complaint response system, I think mostly the issue would be that for the minority who can't be termed as good police, but they would be the rest of majority will also be blamed for their wrongdoings. So being a citizen of this country, like if I feel very scared if I go to a police station, and I think the entire policing culture to me is need a complete overhauling. So, for example, like a common citizen, whenever I pass by, and if there's a police barricade, any naka, and part of my culture, if I say salam to the police personnel there, so first they will, and it happened with me that first they will stop me and they will search me, or at least look at me that who on earth can pass greetings or salam to a police personnel. So it's like the main fault is in, I think, in their culture, in their structure. So as a citizen, I have strong belief that if police try to apprehend me in any false case, I will not be able to clean myself. And there can be several examples. If there's anything happens, so first I will think, oh, if I who I know in this service. So do I know Tariq Javed Saab? Should I talk to him? Do I know Qazi Jamil Saab? Do I know Akhtar Ali Shah Saab? Should I talk to them? They can be a very small thing can happen. Even like if I get the police clearance certificate, they tried to digitize it, but they couldn't. And it's still like manually, it takes almost 15 days to just take for a person to roam around and look to all offices that where I can get the certificate. And so these are, I feel still like that later, for example, if police want to apprehend me in any case, I feel like I won't be able to escape that. And I won't be able to handle that and clean myself. Later on, if even the courts acquit me, there would be no way available to me to just repair the damage done to my reputation. So I think that this results into a serious mistrust on the police. And unless this gap between police and this public, it's repaired and it's built, I think neither police nor this country would be able to get rid of several issues, menace of terrorism, and these crimes, and it would be growing day by day. So I think it seriously results into that people will not be coming to to police to the possible extent they would be avoiding. Then what about women? And the panelists, learned panelists, they have already touched this. What about women? And for example, if I can't go to a police station, how I can expect that my sister, my wife would be able to go to a police station? And then what about witnesses? Why witnesses would be coming in their cases? Because there is no protection to them. And maybe someone even from the police, they would just like they would be leaking information and there would be issues. So I think very few people would be that they would be willing to, even in these circumstances, to go and to become witnesses and record their statements. So this was like my initial on public trust. Investigation, of course, is I think is one of the key challenge which needs special attention. And investigation using modern investigation tools and skills and technology, I think it's not possible at this time. To find out the truth focus to be through use of modern investigation techniques and technology. Unless we are on technology, I think there would be very less chance that we may succeed through these manual systems. For example, we have a sole tool for extraction of truth. The sole tool we have to use torture. So which again leads to inculcating fear amongst people's mind and enlarging this public and police trust gap. So we often witness that after the acquittal of an accused, particularly in heinous offenses. So all the pillars of criminal justice system, judiciary, police, prosecution, they would be just shifting blame on each other, which we also see that, that not only the fault is here in police, but also the fault is in the entire criminal justice system, because there's nobody in this cycle is speaking to each other, is not coordinating. And I think UNDP and so many organizations, they have been trying their best to improve this coordination, but there is lack of coordination and will to they speak to, and they share information with each other. So I think apart from the public and police trust deficit, this trust deficit between the criminal justice institution needs to be repaired and to be improved. Then I think for the police, and Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab has spoken very clearly on police, the issues, the challenges there. I think investigation is yet to become a specialized area of police, not only in KP, but the rest of the country as well. As the reason is that they still use these obsolete and traditional methods. So the reason for maybe they lack proper technologies, or they don't have proper training. And as Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab has also pointed out, they may not know, like, because the modern gadgets, so many police officers, they may not be able to use it. So even, for example, I would see, like, I've seen so many that even they can't operate even the smartphone. So how about these modern gadgets they would be able to use? Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab has also spoken and touched forensics. So I would also just add to, and I fully appreciate that he has covered that, yes, UNDP developed a PC1 for it, which is still there. And I think we're still coordinating that a time will come that some work will be started on that forensic science lab. So for me, like modern investigation, I touched this, that it is not possible without a strong forensic structure and system in the country. We don't have well-equipped labs. We have examples, good example like PFSA, Lahore. But can this facility alone meet the needs of the huge population of this country? Then we have, but I think we can put all, if we are putting all this burden on the overall system. So it's not only police, our entire system is reactive. For example, we may have seen so much on media, and it's not only this in Thakali case, but in other cases where, like, girls, they were raped, and when they were like serious cries and spurred, there would be forensics, modern forensics, and bigger labs, in autonomous labs in every province. I don't know, because but soon the spread dies down, and we are not seeing anything. But at least some of the provinces like Balochistan now, they have, Balochistan has taken a step, and they have started construction of forensic lab. And we hope that in future, KP may also be having a good modern lab, an autonomous lab. But I would just quit. And I think Akhtar Ali Shah Sahab will also be aware of it. Tariq Javed Sahab will also be familiar that UNDP supported a regional forensic lab in Sawat for that very region. And it took almost 3-4 years to even recruit staff and deploy staff there. Luckily, this current police management, they have deployed police staff there. But we were unable, like in all this time, to get a few staff recruited there to run that lab. So this was like another key area that I think need to be focused on, because without forensic lab, if we talk about investigation, I think it will go nowhere. Then this police response also in COVID and in other natural calamities. So I think it's time that we should go for digital solutions. We need to reduce reliance on manual systems. And I think it is the job of police management and also politicians like Kundi Saab, Madam Sama. So I think they can play their role on it to make all these things digital. Otherwise, humanly, if we recruit, even increase the number 500 times, they will not be able to cover this, this, because we have so much population. And so I think the entire police structure should be connected digitally and accessible in the care of police management. And for this, I think technology will enable an IG Saab who's sitting in his office to track progress and make non-performing or any corrupt practices accountable. So these were a few things that I thought to touch on. Of course, taking benefit of our of our two panelists, esteemed panelists, politicians, that I think political interference is also a key to it, because mostly a local politician is very proud that he has appointed a DSP, he has transferred an SHO, and I think they also rely and they live on this system. So I think this political interference and this culture also need to be looked. So these were a few things from my side. One point that I would lay, and I would just mention, and that is a response to Madam Summer point, and that is these women desks or gender desks. So from 2016, 17, and 18, 19, around in 68 police stations, 68 women desks they were established with washrooms, and also not only these but also some investigation rooms with some in-camera facilities. But we have very few police officers in the police force to just we can post there. So most of them are non-functional, because for functional of these women desks, I think they should be available there in the police station 24/7. But if, for example, they would be traveling for each case just for search and for some other purposes from the police lines, I think this will be an issue. So I think some of the issues my esteemed colleagues, they have already covered. So I will just conclude my brief here, and thank you, sir, for all the time and for listening to me, and thanks to the organizers and to all the esteemed.
Thank you, Mr. Arshad Jan. Mr. Arshad has highlighted the importance of technology. He has touched a very Arshad.
Sir, sorry, your voice is breaking.
Thank you. Are you done, Mr. Arshad Jan?
Yes, sir. I have concluded, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Arshad Jan. You have highlighted the importance of technology, and you have touched a very sensitive issue of political interference. And you also gave a good news of 68 women desks. They are non-functional. That is very unfortunate. Now we move on to Sayyida Zahda Bukhari. She has the honor to be the first women PSP in the history of the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and joined police service in 2009. Currently, she is serving as a law enforcement specialist at UNDP. She is major advocate of gender mainstreaming on police and encourages for the provision of gender-sensitive environment for women. She was previously serving as SP Headquarters, Sector Commander, National Highways and Motorways Police in 2017 and 18. Ms. Zahda Bukhari, you are part of the family, and we are very proud of our daughters and sisters who have joined Police Service of Pakistan, and that also explains and gives answer to the observation of Madam Samar Haroon Bilor about more and more police, women in police. I remember that during recent protest and riots in US on the death of Black African American George Floyd, there was an article in the New York Times, and the heading of it was that if you want a more responsive police, if you want a police more responsive to the public, hire more women. So we are very happy that young, our daughters and sisters, they are joining police service. And for the information of Samar Haroon, one of the girls in police force, she has now recently been promoted as Additional Inspector General of Police. And some female officers are due for promotion as DIG, and many like Saida Zahda Bukhari are working as DPOs and Superintendent of Police and ASPs and STPOs. But there is need to, make more and more space for the female officers. So Zahda Bukhari, we would like to hear you on the issues which are very close to your heart. Please.
Thank you very much, sir, for inviting me. And thanks for your comments. It's very encouraging. And as we know that where there is power, there are chances of misuse of authority. So in order to check it, we need to have some accountability measures. It can be internal as well as external. तो externally अगर हम देखें कि जैसे senior officers के लिए भी होता है कि वो tax returns अपने उन्हें जमा कराने पड़ते हैं. They have to submit their financial declaration. ये एक पॉइंट आई थिंक जो लोअर स्टाफ है, SHOs हैं, अगर हम करप्शन को कंट्रोल करना चाह रहे हैं तो टू सम एक्सटेंट अगर ये चीज़ें उनके एसेट डिक्लेयर्स होते रहें तो साथ साथ ही एक ट्रैक मेंटेन होता रहेगा और करप्शन काफ़ी हद तक काउंटर की जा सकती है. फिर इसके अलावा आ जाता है प्रोफेशनल अकाउंटेबिलिटी. फॉर दैट वी नीड टू हैव KPIs एंड इट शुड बी यूनिफॉर्म लाइक अब जो परफॉर्मेंस है उसके इंडिकेटर्स यूनिफॉर्म होने चाहिए, वेदर यू आर पोस्टेड इन फील्ड और यू आर वर्किंग इन द ऑफिसेज. यूजुअली इट हैपन्स कि पीपल दोज हु आर वर्किंग इन फील्ड उनको डिफरेंट सिचुएशंस का सामना करना पड़ता है, उनसे गलतियां ज़्यादा हो जाती हैं एज कम्पेयर टू द officers, officials, those are posted in offices. They are at a safe place, whereas people posted in field, though they are very committed और वो काम भी बहुत कर रहे होते हैं, लेकिन उनसे मिस्टेक्स हो जाती हैं. उसकी वजह से ये है कि उनकी सर्विसेज कट जाती हैं, उनकी प्रमोशन रुक जाती है, जिसकी वजह से उनके ग्रीवेंसेस आ जाते हैं और एक सेंस ऑफ इनजस्टिस और इनइक्वालिटी emerge होता है. So I think if we have equal parameters for all cadres, so उनकी assessment एक proper तरीके से हो सकती है और equality का एक जो sense होता है वो service delivery को बेहतर करता है और performance को भी enhance करता है. फिर इसके अलावा if we would talk about investigation, तो investigation में there are so many lacunas, like, and I would like to talk about if we have specialization in investigation, like we see in various developed countries. जिस तरीके से अमेरिका में है उसमें उनकी होमिसाइड ब्रांच है, वो आईओज सिर्फ होमिसाइड के केसेस देखते हैं, उसके अलावा वो बाकी केसेस नहीं देखते. उससे ये होता है कि उनकी स्पेशलाइजेशन उसमें हो जाती है और कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग भी होती है. लेकिन हमारे यहाँ अनफॉर्चुनेटली एक आईओ के पास इतने ज़्यादा केसेस होते हैं और बहुत डिफरेंट किस्म के केसेस होते हैं कि उसकी ना ही कैपेसिटी होती है, ना ही उसके पास इतना ज़्यादा टाइम होता है कि वो उसको मैनेज कर सके. इफ़ वी हैव स्पेशलाइजेशन इन investigation. Hello?
Please carry on.
Oh, okay. उसमें अगर स्पेशलाइजेशन को हम इन्फोर्स कर दें तो परफॉर्मेंस इन्हांस हो सकती है. Secondly, I think we need to have capacity building trainings, और उसमें especially it should be localized और refresher courses होने चाहिए, और उसमें जिन cases में acquittal होती है या investigation faulty थी या whatever the reason may be जिसकी वजह से investigation ठीक नहीं हो सकी, कोर्ट की जो observation थी उनको कैटरफॉक किया जाए, कोर्सेज में उनको इन्वेस्टिगेटर्स को ट्रेन किया जाए, बताया जाए कि ये रीजंस हैं. यूजुअली सेम रीजंस ही होती हैं जिनकी वजह से हर दफ़ा एक्विटल हो जाता है, तो उनको अगर कैटरफॉक किया जाए, उन पे तवज्जो दी जाए तो आई थिंक इन्वेस्टिगेशन कैन बी इम्प्रूव. फिर इसके अलावा ऑब्वियसली एक बंदा होता है या दो एसपी इन्वेस्टिगेशन को अराउंड 5 to 4,000 केसेस पर ईयर एक डिस्ट्रिक्ट में देखने पड़ते हैं, विच इज़ ह्यूमनली नॉट पॉसिबल फॉर वन पर्सन टू लुक आफ्टर. उसमें अगर इफ़ वी कुड हैव अ स्पेशलाइज्ड असेसमेंट कमेटी जो प्रॉपरली एनालाइज करें, असेस करें कि किन ग्राउंड्स पे इन्वेस्टिगेशन फेल हुई है, वेदर इट वाज द मेलाफाइडी डेलिब्रेट इंटेंशन ऑफ द इन्वेस्टिगेटर जिसकी वजह से लेकूनास छोड़े गए हैं और चालान प्रॉपरली नहीं हो सका, एक्विटल हो गया, अच्छे तरीके से नहीं हो सकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन, तो उसमें उनको पनिशमेंट दी जा सकती है, उनको उनकी इम्प्रूवमेंट की जा सकती है. सिमिलरली इसी तरीके से अगर आप बात करें कोविड और पुलिस से रिलेटेड, कोविड में पुलिस हैज़ ऑलवेज बिन फ्रंट लाइन फोर्स to combat terrorism and crimes and whatever problems are in society. तो कोविड में भी they are playing the same role. उनको कोई जितने न डर हो के और जिस तरीके से पुलिस ये रोल परफॉर्म कर रही है, आई डोंट थिंक कोई भी सोसाइटी में और ग्रुप इतने अच्छे तरीके से परफॉर्म कर रहा है. बट अनफॉर्चुनेटली दे आर overburdened and underpaid. I must say they are not only underpaid in services, they are underpaid in recognition as well. सर्विसेज के तो उनके इश्यूज हैं, वो इतना काम करते हैं. अब आप देखें बाकी जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज में 8 घंटे से ज़्यादा कोई पुलिस ऑफिसर काम नहीं करता. हमारे ऑफिसर्स 12-12 घंटे 18-18 घंटे काम करते हैं और उनकी हालत ऐसी होती है, इट्स पैथेटिक कि आप उनकी हालत, वो मेडिकल उनका नहीं है, एजुकेशन उनकी नहीं है, बच्चों की कंडीशन ऐसी होती है, वो नाके पे खड़े हो कि उन बेचारों की जो फिजिकल कंडीशन हुई होती है, लाइक इट्स वेरी पैथेटिक. हमें उस चीज़ का होना चाहिए, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारी सोसाइटी या सर्विस में इस चीज़ को इतना नहीं किया जाता. लेकिन इफ़ वी कांट प्रोवाइड देम सर्विसेज देन एटलीस्ट वी शुड रिकग्नाइज इट. उससे उनका एटलीस्ट मोटिवेशन लेवल, थोड़ा सा उनका मोरल तो हाई होगा. लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम सर्विसेज तो नहीं है, ठीक है, लेकिन उनको इनकरेज भी नहीं करते, उनको रिकग्नाइज भी नहीं करते. इवन के इतना होता है कि अगर एक पुलिस ऑफिसर हु इज़ एट द फ्रंट लाइन, उसकी लाइफ है, उसकी अपनी फैमिली है, हर इंसान को अपनी लाइफ प्यारी होती है, बट वो अपनी लाइफ को अपनी ड्यूटी पे प्रेफर नहीं करता. वो आगे आता है, सुसाइड बॉम्बर है, उसको पकड़ लेता है, उसको पता होता है कि उसने ख़त्म हो जाना है. लेकिन in the end, media projection, I must say about media projection, media has always been playing very negative role to portray police, और it's very unfortunate. मीडिया को अपना रोल लाजमी प्ले करना चाहिए और पुलिस को एक पॉजिटिव तरीके से पोर्ट्रे करना चाहिए. हमेशा पुलिस बुरी नहीं होती, मेरे हिसाब से तो बुरी होती ही नहीं है, क्योंकि जितना चीज़ें उन्होंने करनी होती हैं, जितना काम वो करते हैं, इतना ओवरबर्डन वो होते हैं, और दे आर डूइंग सो मच, एंड वो चाहते हैं कि हर चीज़ में पुलिस आके करे, लेकिन उनको सर्विसेज उस तरीके से नहीं दी जाती. एक पुलिस ऑफिसर लाइन ऑफ ड्यूटी में शहीद हो जाता है, लेकिन मीडिया पे खबरें चल रही होती हैं कि पुलिस अफसर जहाँ बाक हो गया, हलाक हो गया. صرف شہید کہنے سے بھی ہم لوگوں کے پاس اتنا لائک اب اتنی پولیس کے ساتھ لائک ڈسٹرسٹ ہے یا مسٹرسٹ ہے, آئی ڈونٹ نو, یہ جو چیز ہے یہ اٹس ویری انفارچونیٹ, اٹ شوڈنٹ بی دیئر. اور میرے خیال میں اگر پولیس سے اچھی سروس ڈلیوری ایکسپیکٹ کی جاتی ہے تو ایٹ لیسٹ دے شوڈ بی given respect and at least they should be recognized. کہ ایک بندہ ناکے پہ کھڑا ہے دھوپ میں, وہ ساری چیزیں کر رہا ہے, تو اس کو آپ اتنا نہ کرو کہ اس پہ اگر وہ شہید ہو جاتا ہے تو شہید کہنے سے کوئی فرق تو نہیں پڑتا, لیکن ایکچوئل میں تو اس نے اپنی جان دے دی ہے, تو آپ اس کو جہاں باغ کہہ دیں تو باقی لوگوں کو کیا میسج جاتا ہے اور وہ کس طریقے سے کام کریں گے. سو آئی تھنک فار موٹیویشن آف پولیس اٹس ویری مچ امپورٹنٹ دیٹ اٹ شوڈ بی پورٹریڈ ان اے پازیٹیو وے, اور ان کو انکریج کرنا چاہیے, ان کا مورال ہائی کرنا چاہیے, اور they should be treated like other human beings. And then the last topic is about gender balance and gender mainstreaming. About gender balance, I would say that no development is possible without gender balance. اور gender balance کا بھی if we have gender balance and we don't have gender mainstreaming, it's just increasing the number. And mainstreaming میں یہ ہے کہ we need to give women decision making positions, and it should be unbiased, اور اس میں بھی we need to change our culture, اور یہ culture it should come from IGPs. If the message would come from the IGPs, then the rest of the force would follow it. اور اس میں unbiased trainings ہونی چاہیے, ٹریننگ اکیڈمیز میں unbiased ٹیچرز ہونے چاہیے, کمانڈانٹس unbiased ہونے چاہیے, at least they should have sensitivity and they should realize that women have come there and they are here to perform their role, and they should be given responsibilities and equal like equal opportunities should be provided to them. They should be given conducive environment where they could perform, اور ان کی پرفارمنس کو پراپرلی اسیس کیا جائے, اور ان کی جو فیلڈ پوسٹنگز ہوتی ہیں ان کو ان کی پرفارمنس سے لنک کیا جائے, ان کی جینڈر سے نہ لنک کیا جائے کہ وہ تو لڑکی ہے اس کو کیوں ہم لگا دیں ڈی پی او. اگر جینڈر مین اسٹریمنگ جس طریقے سے میں تو سمجھتی ہوں, جس طریقے سے ہمیں یہ چیزیں جینڈر بیلنس کے لیے 10% کا کوٹا رکھنا پڑا ہے, تو ہمیں جینڈر مین اسٹریمنگ کے لیے بھی یہ کوٹا رکھنے کی ضرورت ہے کہ ایٹ لیسٹ وہ آئیں خواتین, ان کو ایک پوزیشن دیں, ان کو اپرچونیٹی دیں, ان کو اپرچونیٹی ملے گی تو ان کی کیپیسٹی بلڈنگ ہوگی. اگر ان کو اپرچونیٹی نہیں ملے گی, ان کی کیپیسٹی بلڈنگ کیسے ہوگی؟ کیپیسٹی بلڈنگ نہیں ہوگی تو آپ کس طریقے سے دیکھتے ہیں اگلے 10 سال بعد 15 سال بعد خواتین اس پوزیشن میں کیسے ہو سکتی ہیں کہ وہ آئی جی پیز بن کے سارے ڈفرینٹ اینگل سے ساری چیزیں کریں, جبکہ ان کو ایکسپوجر ہی نہیں ملا, صرف اس وجہ سے کہ جی آپ تو لڑکی ہیں, آپ سے پہلے ایک لڑکی نہیں اچھا کر سکی, سو یو کانٹ ڈو دس. تو اس گراؤنڈ پہ نہیں ہونا چاہیے. اٹ شوڈنٹ بی بیسڈ آن جینڈر, اٹ شوڈ بی بیسڈ آن پرفارمنس, and its impact would be on the society as a whole. If a woman is if we want to bring change in the society and empower women, then we need to have gender mainstreaming. اور اس کا امپیکٹ آپ کا جو ہماری سوسائٹی میں جینڈر کرائمز ہیں, جینڈر بیسڈ وائلنس 2011 سے لے کے 2018 تک تقریباً 70,000 سے زیادہ جینڈر بیسڈ وائلنس کے کیسز ہوئے ہیں. اس میں اگر خواتین آپ کی پولیس اسٹیشن میں ہوتی ہیں تو جو وکٹمز ہیں ان کو ایک سینس آف سیکیورٹی ملتا ہے, وہ آ کے بات کرتے ہیں, ایٹ لیسٹ سائیکولوجیکلی وہ کمفرٹیبل ہوتی ہیں ایک عورت سے بات کرنے کے لیے کہ وہ ہماری بات سنے گی, ہمیں ایک سائیکولوجیکل ریلیف ملے گا. پھر they shouldn't be only to listen them, they should be in an effective position, وہ FIR کر سکیں اور وہ اس کو پراپرلی انویسٹیگیٹ کر سکیں. تو اس کے لیے we need to have senior officers at police station level, at least SIs اور ASIs وہاں پہ موجود ہونی چاہیے جو فل ٹائم ہوں, اور جینڈر ڈیسک کو ایکٹیو کرنے کی ضرورت ہے, کیونکہ خواتین کے مسائل ایک خواتین جو انویسٹیگیٹر ہے وہ بہت اچھے طریقے سے کر کے حل کر سکتی ہے. جس طریقے سے اگر ہم دیکھیں ملیشیا کا جو ماڈل ہے, उसमें उन्होंने थानों के अंदर ही विक्टिम्स के लिए रूम बनाए हुए हैं, वहाँ पुलिस ऑफिसर्स होती हैं, वो उनको अच्छे तरीके से सुनती हैं, उनके मसले को हल करती हैं। तो जेंडर के इश्यूज जिस तरीके से हमारी सोसाइटी में एग्जिस्ट कर रहे हैं, अगर हम ये GBV के केसेस को ख़त्म करना चाह रहे हैं, तो आई थिंक जेंडर मेन स्ट्रीमिंग स्पेशली इन पुलिस, इट्स वेरी मच इम्पॉर्टेंट.
Thank you, Zahda. You have
Thank
raised
you very much, sir.
important issues, and I fully support आपका ये जो आर्गुमेंट है कि पुलिस ऑफिसर्स जो हैं उनको जेंडर की बुनियाद पे असेस नहीं किया जाना चाहिए, परफॉर्मेंस की बुनियाद पे असेस किया जाना चाहिए. We will take up this matter with the respective inspector generals all over Pakistan. Our last panelist is no one but Mr. Tariq Javed, our star police officer. He joined the police service of Pakistan in 1988. He completed his police staff training from Police Staff College, Bramshall, UK. He completed his MSc in Criminal Justice System and Police Management from Leicester University, UK. He has served in Punjab, National Police Academy, Balochistan, and KPK. In KPK, he served as additional IG for more than 3 years. Presently, he is CEO of a charitable organization, FC Foundation. Tariq, you have heard our honorable panelists, our parliamentarians, Mr. Ismail Khan, our colleague Zahda Bukhari. I expect that you will now wrap up the discussion. We are already stretched, I think, 20 minutes beyond our target. I know you have the ability. आप कोजे में दरिया नहीं समुंदर बंद करने की सलाहियत है आपके अंदर. तो आई होप कि आप ना सिर्फ इस डिबेट को रैप अप करेंगे बल्कि आप अपने जो व्यूज हैं वो भी हमारे साथ शेयर करें. प्लीज तारिक जावेद.
Thank you very much, sir. Firstly, I'm really at loss of words what to say now, because all the panelists, they have done a wonderful job and they have covered almost all areas extensively. However, I will have my own submissions. I know the constraint also, the time constraint, and I'll try to limit myself. Please allow me to have a big picture before us, the forest view rather. Then later on we can move to the trees, but I'll try to avoid the duplication part. As we all know, that no legislation in the world can be effective and popular which does not reflect the aspiration of the people and the needs of the society. Unfortunately, the Police Act 1861, it came close on the heels of the First War of Independence, 1857. And then we inherited the same instrument. We carried on with it, we were living with it. Then there had been debates, and then you also refer to the commissions and inquiries and the reports. Some say it's 25, some say it's more than 25, whatever. The common thread throughout these reports was that let's replace the Police Act, the Colonial Police Act. And the argument given and developed further by people like Abbas Khan was, and you have also touched on it, that policing in democratic societies must have a democratic control, politically neutral, and publicly accountable. This was the thrust, the main argument. And then they rounded the extensions to be responsive, blah, blah. Okay, I thought Mr. Kundi is going to
Please
speak.
go ahead.
Okay. And then comes the Police Order 2002. You have already pointed out that the two provinces, it was kind of bulldozed without any debate, though the instrument came after a lot of deliberations and consultations. And even in the province of Punjab, there were a lot of challenges and opposition to it. And still, they are resisting the implementation part of it. In KP, luckily, we have this 2017 Act, which is very close to the Police Order 2002. On our part, in this side, I mean, we were bulldozing the legislation. And on the other side, the Indian Supreme Court, in the famous case of Prakash Singh, the Supreme Court issued 7 directives that we all know of. And I wish that Shoaib Sadosa was here. He would have given a big sarcastic smile that they copied it from the Order 2002. And the 7 directives again touched on the tenure of the DGP, the separation of investigation, and the Public Complaint Authority, the Safety Commission, they call it Security Commission. Here, then, our Chief Justice, I mean, after having taken the case in 2018, you have already touched on that. I will not go into that detail. The ex-Chief Justice of Pakistan, Mr. Asif Said Khan Khosa, under his own leadership and guidance, they thought, to which the Police Reforms Committee also agreed to, and we must give due credit to the committee members, that instead of addressing the entire raft of issues and problems, let's pick up 2 key areas, that is accountability and investigation. My colleagues have already talked about the accountability, external, internal, the mechanism, so I will not duplicate. However, I'll just add that if the DPO, the district police officer, is efficient, smart, vigilant, and he can hold his subordinates accountable, responsible, I'm pretty sure there are less chances of misuse of power and authority and malpractices. So coming to the investigation side, our colleague female MPA, Samar Harun Sahaba, dilated on it in detail, and Akhtar Shah Saab also. I'll just add that it's high time for us to have codes of practices in order to strike a balance between the powers of police and the rights and freedoms of the public. We must have codes of practice which touch on different aspects of investigation. I'll quickly move to the third leg, which has been very beautifully summed up and dilated upon by our panelists, that is gender mainstreaming. I'll not go into the nitty-gritty, but that is very shocking that we have 1.32% of female participants in the police service out of more than 400,000 police personnel. So they have again made suggestions how to attract female officers, female colleagues to join the police service. For COVID, they have all praise for the police of KP and all over the country. And no wonder they've done a tremendous job, a wonderful role they have played throughout this period. And there are 35 mortalities, more than 2,400 got infected. So the figure may vary, I will not stick to it, but I will request the police personnel to strictly follow the SOPs, because if you stay safe, we stay safe. All the best, and thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tariq Javed. As I said in the opening introduction, you have summed up the whole debate beautifully and very comprehensively. It was a treat to listen to Mr. Ismail Khan, to Madam Bilor, to Honorable Dr. Syed Akhtar Ali Shah, Arshad Jan, Kundi Saab, and our young officer, our daughter, Sayyida Zada Bukhari. Thank you very much. I wish we had more time, to discuss and interact on this very important issue of police reforms. Police reform is not a 2020 match. It is not a one-day match. It is, I think, a test match. We are playing it for the last 70 years, and we will, carry on till it is implemented. And of course, we have to take stock of in our own, shortcomings. The police leadership has to look into the matters pointed out by Mr. Ismail Khan, the things which we can do ourselves, why we are not doing it. It is a very, very important question. Our female officers through CSS, they are coming every year. But I can gather from the talk of Sayyida Zada Bukhari that there is something more to be done in respect of their career progression, and in respect of their capacity building, and in respect of their exposure. Thank you very much all. Thank you very much, Sir Ismail Khan. Thank you very much, Sir Akhtar Ali Shah Saab. Thank you very much, Sir Ahmed Kundi Saab. Thank you, Sayyida Zada Bukhari. Thank you, Sir Tariq Javed. Thank you, Sir Arshad Jan. Thank you, Madam. Madam Bilor has already, I think, left. Tariq and Akhtar, please convey our deepest regards to her. And on behalf of the team, Advocacy for Police Reforms, once again, thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.